Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today. We're going on a really fascinating journey, basically translating a rigorous, cutting-edge cognitive neuroscience review into an accessible, eye-opening exploration of how some of our minds are literally wired differently. So if you love understanding the deep biology behind human behavior, you are definitely in for a treat today.
But first, I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever had someone say to you, "Hey, don't take things so personally"? Or maybe, "Why are you so sensitive?" Or, perhaps you've been the one saying it to a friend, a colleague, or even your kid. We tend to throw these phrases around as casual critiques, right? But what if I told you that this sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's not a choice, and it's certainly not a weakness, but an actual, measurable, biological temperament? We're taking this highly relatable, everyday human experience, and we are going to ground it strictly in the science.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, defining sensory processing sensitivity. 2, the environmental sensitivity framework. 3, separating trait from disorder. 4, inside the sensitive brain. And 5, thriving in the right environment.
Let's start with section 1, defining sensory processing sensitivity.
It's really time we move sensitivity out of the realm of, subjective, messy feelings and establish its hard foundational definition. It might actually surprise you to learn that this trait exists in roughly 20% of the human population. That's 1 in 5 people. And here's the real kicker. This isn't just some human quirk. Research shows that this is an evolutionary survival strategy found in over 100 different species. We're talking about everything from rhesus monkeys to rats, and yes, even the pumpkin seed fish. Turns out, some fish really do take things personally. But seriously, in any given population, a minority of individuals are born more cautious, more reactive, and just deeply aware of their surroundings, which historically helped the wider group survive by spotting predators or finding hidden resources.
So, in the academic literature, this is known as sensory processing sensitivity, or SPS, and it's an innate temperament trait, meaning you are literally born with it. It's characterized by the deeper cognitive processing of stimuli, increased empathy and emotionality, a certain ease of being overstimulated, and a profoundly heightened awareness of subtleties in the environment. This is a biologically based, hardwired temperament. It basically means the central nervous system is quite literally just more sensitive to the world. But it's not just a blanket experience. According to researchers like Pluis and his colleagues, it's actually composed of 3 distinct dimensions. The first is aesthetic sensitivity, which is this incredible depth of experiencing art, music, and nature. And this dimension is strongly linked to higher well-being and exceptional communication skills. Then there's the low sensory threshold and the ease of excitation, which are susceptibilities to internal and external stimuli. These are the dimensions that can make loud, crowded rooms feel genuinely overwhelming and can drive negative emotionality or anxiety. So it's kind of a package deal, right? Profound joy alongside potential sensory overload?
Moving right along to section 2, the environmental sensitivity framework.
Now, what's really interesting about this next concept, the differential susceptibility theory, is that it represents a massive paradigm shift in how we understand vulnerability. Low sensitive individuals tend to be highly resilient in the face of adversity, like a chaotic upbringing, for example, but they don't benefit quite as much from highly supportive environments. Highly sensitive individuals, though, they are totally different. Yes, they definitely suffer much more from the negative consequences of adverse experiences. But look at the flip side. They benefit disproportionately from positive, supportive environments. They don't just suffer more in the bad, they thrive remarkably more in the good.
And building on that is biological sensitivity to context. This framework suggests that early childhood is a massive driver here. Surprisingly, exposure to either highly supportive, low-stress environments or highly stressful, chaotic environments as a young child can result in this heightened reactivity. Those early environments literally shape and form how this biological sensitivity approaches all future conditions in life. It's absolutely fascinating.
All right, section 3, separating trait from disorder.
So the absolutely crucial point we need to clear up is this. Sensory processing sensitivity is not a disorder. Despite some overlapping behaviors that people might, casually point out in everyday life, rigorous scientific reviews have shown it is distinctly separate from clinical diagnoses like autism spectrum disorder, schizophrenia, or PTSD. When researchers looked at the brain's response to social and emotional stimuli, they found SPS engages entirely different neural regions. It's a healthy, normal personality trait centered around empathy, reward processing, and awareness, not a clinical deficit.
Section 4, inside the sensitive brain.
So how do we know all this? Well, the data driving this conversation comes from a highly rigorous, systematic review. Researchers started with an initial pool of 172 papers and systematically whittled them down, applying super strict inclusion criteria until they isolated just 7 definitive, high-quality neuroimaging studies that specifically map the brain structure and function of this trait. And the methodology of these final studies is incredibly robust. Across these 7 studies, researchers utilized cutting-edge technology like fMRI, traditional MRI, and near-infrared spectroscopy on nearly 400 healthy participants across both the United States and China. They had people perform visuospatial tasks, view emotional images of partners and strangers, and rate their subjective arousal, all while mapping their real-time brain activity.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what's going on under the hood. When highly sensitive people process the world, specific regions of their brains physically light up way more than average. The insula and precuneus show heightened activation, which handles higher-order visual processing, deep awareness, and the integration of complex information. The amygdala and hippocampus engage heavily, deepening emotion processing and memory. And the inferior frontal gyrus activates, which is deeply tied to action planning and intense empathy. So this isn't just a feeling. It is highly active, measurable neurology at work.
Actually, scratch that. It goes even deeper than real-time brain activity. It's coded into our very DNA. Recent research has identified specific genetic markers associated with SPS. The serotonin transporter gene, known as 5-HTTLPR, along with several specific dopamine genes, are now considered highly reliable biological markers of sensory processing sensitivity. It's quite literally a fundamental part of a person's biological makeup.
Let's wrap up with Section 5, Thriving in the Right Environment.
Let's see how this builds together into something practical. Remember the differential susceptibility theory we talked about earlier? Because sensitive brains process every detail, every emotion, and every piece of sensory input so deeply, the environment they are in matters exponentially more. When placed in supportive, nurturing environments, highly sensitive individuals show enhanced responsivity to psychological interventions, increased daily positive moods, and incredibly positive parenting styles. By actively curating a supportive environment, the high risks of burnout, fatigue, and depression that are usually associated with sensory overload, well, they dramatically drop.
Which leaves us with this final, vital question to ask ourselves based on all this hard science. Whether you fall into that 20% or you manage, live with, or love someone who does, are you just surviving in chaos, or are you strategically positioned to thrive? Understanding the sensitive brain isn't just about avoiding loud noises. It's really about unlocking a biological superpower of empathy and deep processing by putting it in the right soil. I hope this explainer has sparked your curiosity to learn more about your own neurobiology or the neurobiology of the people around you. Thank you so much for watching, and keep exploring.